All right, let's try this again. Today we are on Roger's computer because Bruce's has fried. Literally.
Right. If the pastards find a way of inventing new technological problems, like we invent them, problems that literally have not occurred in the history of technokind.
That's the audacity that at one point stopped picking up my voice. It would only pick up Roger's voice. It would not pick up my voice, which was just hilarious. I've never seen that.
Yeah, right. Yes.
We thought that was probably supernatural intervention, actually, but we tried to get around it by going with Anchor, and now we have no way of finding our files anywhere to put them on Spotify. So if you're seeing this right now, you're one of the lucky few in the world that is seeing it and perhaps hearing it.
Possibly.
Although we don't know for sure if you're hearing it.
There's any number of times, yes.
So I'm back from Iceland, Raj. I've got a little Icelandic Nordic beard going on, which I haven't shaved. So it'd be kind of fun to go full Iceland for a while.
So it's your first time to Iceland?
Yeah, first time.
Yeah, what was the takeaway? Yeah.
Beautiful country. Weird country. Like you're walking by these volcanic vents. All right, so you're just hiking along, and there's just steam bubbling out of the ground. And you're like, I wonder if I just smashed my stick in that too hard, if the whole thing would just erupt and we would all die. It's just venting everywhere. I mean, there are some places where it's venting so much, like the first day that we're hiking, the first 2 days it's raining.
Okay.
And it's cold rain. And if the wind is 20, 30 miles an hour blowing sideways, just cold. And so you would get to one of those thermal vents and you would stand in front of it for like 2 minutes.
To warm up.
Just to warm up. Now, it smelled like basically fireworks. So it was massive sulfur smell.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't care. I was freezing. So you would just get there and go, oh, it's just so good. You'd get warm and then you'd go hiking again. So the first 2 days, rainy, wind, cold. The second day, we're hiking across this glacier. I'm not making that up. It's literally like a quarter-mile long snowfield, wind whipping us. And we're wondering, why are we here?
That's what I was wondering. Like, what's this appeal? The Iceland people have got a great brand manager. Somehow they're convincing,
because everybody wants to go.
Everyone's getting Iceland on their list, their bucket list.
So we're freezing when we finally get to the camping area. This was called Hrafastafasten or something like that. There's lots of R's, L's, D's, M's, and there's more consonants. It's like 4 to 1 consonants to vowels. So there's no way to pronounce any of these names.
There's combinations that should not be together.
We're going to call it Hrafastafasten. We got there and literally I had to go into the it's not a lodge. It's really it's like this backcountry building just to thaw out for 30 minutes and drink some hot tea to get the nerve to go out and set up tents in this 30-mile-an-hour gale force wind. They had these huge rock things built up around the tent areas just to kind of mitigate the wind. Overnight, it blew so hard, 3 of our tent ropes broke. 3 on 2 different tents. It was wild.
Now, your thoughts about a return trip to Iceland at that moment were
slim. But the next 3 days were beautiful. Sun came out, gorgeous. The hiking was so pretty. The skies were blue. And so many cool things to do there. So the first day we stop at the Blue Lagoon, which is this famous, it's the largest like geothermal pool in the world. And it's just you're in these azure blue waters and you're swimming up to these little outdoor bars and getting little drinks with umbrellas and then swimming back and getting mud facials, and exfoliating. And then the first place we before we started the trip, the first place was the trailhead. We stayed overnight there, Lanamalagar, because we were doing the Lagavigr Trail. And I'm not saying any of those the way they do. They mumble a lot in Nordic. But Roger, there's literally like this, there's a natural hot spring. So there's like, 50, 60 people in this hot springs. We just all get down in there and we're just like, this is so. Once there was a line of people in the middle. And I'm like, I wonder if that's like the warm water's coming in. No, that was the line of demarcation, because when I got on the other side, it was like 112 degrees. Like you couldn't be over there but a minute without scalding yourself.
Oh,
then you got to this other side and it was a little cooler. So people congregated in one section because it's coming off this waterfall, literally a hot spring waterfall. But it's so cool. And it turned out to be a great trip. Funniest thing, this is going to make one of my great failure stories. So
you have some really good ones.
We get to the last area. We get there early, plenty of time to get lunch. There's this little backcountry restaurant. I mean, we're out in the middle of nowhere, Iceland, like these 4-wheel drive buses with tires that are 60 inches tall, pick you up and you drive across rivers to get out.
Okay.
Literally, they drive through the rivers. I mean, it's just hilarious. But the restaurant's like 20 minutes away from this gravel area where we're going to get picked up by a bus. And so I asked Johanna how we get there. And she said, oh, yeah, just take a left. And it's just a 20-minute walk. And I said, do we have to go over that hill? And they're like, yeah, you got to go over the hill. I'm like, okay. So I start leading everybody. I've never been there before in my life, so I don't know what I'm doing. And I start taking us up this hill, and the hill keeps going. The hill keeps going. And everyone's like, are we on the right trail? I'm like, yeah, I've got all the trails. We're on the right trail. We're going to get to Zravislav in just minutes, Well, that was not actually where we were supposed to go. So I took people on a hike on the last day, 1,500 feet up to the top of Varafistan, Varala floods. And there was nothing there except a thing that said, you're at the top. I took them to like the tallest point in Iceland. And there's no restaurant there. And then we looked way, way down below. And there was this thing that looked like that could be a little tiny backcountry restaurant. And everyone said, oh, no, I'm not going down there. I mean, and we're running out of time as it is. So everyone else hiked back down the way we came. I ran down the mountain, which took quite a bit. Got to the little cafe because when I go there next year, I need to know where it is. But and no one got lunch that day, so we literally were on the bus eating Pringles because that was what they had at the little check-in place, Pringles for lunch. It's very good. Anyway, great trip. Glad to be back. Next year will be even better.
Now that you know, no, I just love the fact, yeah, you're going to places you've never been and
taking people places like they don't ever need to be.
Right. I'm just glad that when you got to that point, it wasn't like a top secret military installation where
and we all get shot on sight.
Right? It's like,
or worse yet, it's an active volcano because they got 130 of them in Iceland. They call it the land of fire and ice because basically the whole island's about to explode. Let's face it.
Okay.
At some point, because it's just so cool. You could see where these lava tubes would start out of the ground because it's all rock now, but you could see it when you got far enough away and it would just shoot out of the ground and then fill up an entire valley, and you could see exactly where the lava stopped. And we're hiking over these things, sometimes a mile long.
Wow.
Over these just lava tubes, which was it was hilarious. Anyway, good times. What did you do over the last week, Raj? I mean, let's face it, a lot has happened in the past several weeks.
Well, yes, a lot has happened. I guess most significantly, our Dad did die. Finally,
passed over.
If I can say,
passed over. Yeah.
So January he gets this
Yeah.
diagnosis with pancreatic cancer, and
we're thinking weeks, maybe a couple of months.
Right. No, we immediately plan a family gathering. We're going to get with Dad and say those things that
celebration of life service.
Right. And say the things we'd say at a service, which would be 6-7 months later.
As it turned out.
As it turned out.
And in that 6 and 7 months, Mom would pass first, which nobody saw. I mean, just shockingly. So in a 7-week period, we lost Mom and Dad in a temporary sense. And yeah, it's just been an interesting season. I was with Dad the last night.
Yes.
And it was funny because it was Marlena's idea. She's like, I think you ought to consider just driving up there, just be with him. Because I was not the person that wants to be at a person's bedside when they die. I'm not maybe as wired for that, but I did. And my sisters were there, and I was like, you guys take a break, because they had been there the night before thinking he's going to pass. He was supposed to pass the night before. So they'd been up all night. They'd been with him all night. Georgia had been there. I said, you guys take a break and go home. I said, I'll stay with Dad tonight. And I put this little Georgie plush dog on his chest just so I could watch him breathe. You could see easily his breath going up and down. And I just prayed that God would wake me up if he stopped breathing so that I would know. And that happened at 4:58 a.m. that morning. It was so weird, Raj. It's the first time I've ever been with a person when they passed. Like Marlena's dad, I got there 30 minutes after.
Yep.
Because he was at the hospital and I drove there, but he had been gone 30 minutes before. And it was like, I put my hand on his chest, and I was like, my first thought was, this is the end of an era. It was just interesting. Because There's 2 Rice daughters still remaining. You appropriately said that Aunt Libby would be speaking at your funeral, which I thought was great. She's like 96, still driving, still writing Bible studies, still doing videos. It's awesome.
No, it's intriguing. Well, there's all kinds of, as it turns out. So 7 weeks prior to you sitting there with Dad as he passed, I sat with Mom. So Thursday morning, just like 7 weeks earlier. So just intriguing that as it turned out, I held Mom's hand and sat with her as she crossed over.
What did you feel? Think. Do you remember?
No, I don't recall. I was glad to be there. Like you, there wasn't like I needed that. I wanted to be there for that moment.
Yeah.
That was the end of a crazy day where Mom had just gone rapidly downhill. None of us realized that night actually was going to be till suddenly
it was.
I and my 3 sisters are talking with the doctor, who's really saying, you've got a decision to make. And we already knew what Mom and Dad wanted when you were just looking now at mechanically staying alive from a machine. So, we made that decision, and I just told the girls that I'd be happy to stay with Mom. We said all the things that we wanted to say in hopes that she maybe was hearing some of it and so on, because, she was not conscious to our understanding. And then the girls were able to go home. I could just be there. But I think there was just a reminder of the hope we have.
Yeah.
There's a way I now see death that's just, it's informed by Jesus, not just the story of Jesus, but my walk with him.
Right.
And so I wasn't feeling this keen loss. There was just
same thing.
And here's the thing, I've always loved the fact that Jesus would talk about death, and he would just use the analogy of sleep.
Yeah. Our brother Lazarus has fallen asleep.
But fall asleep, and the guy, I'm going to go wake him up, and the disciples are, he probably needs to sleep.
If he's resting,
no,
that's probably
okay,
good.
right.
No, he's dead.
But it's like, for him, it's just sleep, because literally all he's going to do 4 days after Lazarus dies, he's just going to call out to him like you might wake someone up. Hey, Joy, it's time to get up, or we might.
Great. Hey, Lazarus,
it's time to get up. Right. It's time to get up, buddy.
Shake it off.
And
it's funny. He said, get him something to eat. He hasn't eaten in 4 days. He's going to be hungry.
Well, and he also said, we need to unwrap him. Like, no one's going. No, Walking Dead.
The mummy.
No one's going.
No one's going to touch that.
Right. And
seriously, I'm not going to like.
But this thing, with Jesus, if he's the resurrection and the life, as he stated, then, it's just right. He spoke us into existence. He just speaks a word.
He who believes in me will never die. He has crossed over from death unto life.
Right.
And I loved what you showed at the funeral. The whole thing of this whole concept of eternal life, this whole idea of salvation, is not a destination. It's not this. We're in it right now. Right. I was thinking about this, just thinking about Mom and Dad's situation, and of course, both of us been more attuned to death than life and all that stuff right now. But I'm like, I believe that time is a construct that we live inside right now, because God gave us planets and sun and moon for times and dates and seasons. But I think eternity is not time. I think it's the way that, in one sense, time is the way that we understand eternity, but in reality, eternity is the absence of time. It's just the absence of time. So it's made me think all sorts of really weird existential thoughts. But I'm more certain than ever of my hope in Christ, and I still long for home. I was listening this morning to the collaboration between Toby Mac and Sheryl Crow called Promised Land.
Yes.
And she just said, it almost brings tears to my eyes. She said, waiting for the day that I'll be home. And she goes, one day I'll stand before the throne with nothing
in these
2 hands, but hope in these 2 hands.
But yes.
And I'm like, that's it. I mean, I got nothing to offer Jesus. There's not like, look at all the good stuff I did for you. You know, I just have hope in Christ.
But the word there, you're my promise. And there's where.
And that's now.
Right. That's the deal. It's long before. And this is what was so important about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that song alludes to that. There's nothing here that's going to be there. This side of heaven, there's no streets of gold.
Right.
This life's going to be hard. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I interrupted.
But on this side, this is the beauty. We have Jesus. We're Paul would say, to live is Christ, to die is gain. So there's another letter again. But I'm enjoying Christ now. I'm walking.
Isn't that funny? He didn't say to die is Christ.
Right.
No, to live right now is Christ.
Right.
And die is gain.
We already have Christ.
We already have Christ. Now we're just adding to it.
Right.
It's gain.
That's the.
Oh, see, that's that.
To me, the gain is.
I brought my Bible.
The gain is we'll be there forever. The gain is Psalm 23. Everything in Psalm 23 is about the shepherd with us now. All the things he's leading us beside still waters, paths of righteousness. He's preparing a table for us, even if enemies are around. That's not about heaven in the future.
Nope.
Walking through the valley of shadow of death. That's not about heaven in the future.
And goodness and mercy are chasing me down all the days of this life.
This life.
Right now.
Oh, and that's the gain. Oh, this is forever.
And let me talk about the gain. So I want to take you to Psalm 73.
Okay.
So.
Oh, yes.
Several weeks.
I like Psalms.
Oh,
yeah.
I love it now. So several weeks ago, depression visited with the big black dog. He's since gone, thank God. But I think part of it was a frame that I've taken. There's something that God showed me. So on the trip, on this Iceland trip, I do devotions, morning and evening. And I literally did Dad's funeral with all of my brothers and sisters on Monday morning and flew out to Iceland Monday afternoon.
That's right, yes.
It was weird. And the next morning, I'm floating around in the Blue Lagoon. And I was struck with joy and sorrow are on these parallel paths at all times, and we would do well to embrace both of them.
Yes.
In other words, it's not a one or the other. So when depression struck a couple of weeks ago, and some of it was really circumstantial. The Plainview house needs an entirely new plumbing system, which is being done.
How much more can you entirely replace in one house?
Well, we're about 30,000 into finding out right now, Raj. I'll let you know how that works out later. But
I think I'm lapsing into depression.
It was so funny because I was feeling that depression come, and I always know when it comes, and I can feel it, and there's sighing, and there's just, you feel sadness.
Oh gosh.
So I had a Bible open day. Because sometimes when I'm depressed, I don't feel like going to my directive reading, because I'm always reading the Gospels. I'm in Mark right now, which is great fun. But I'm always reading the Gospels in different places. But I just opened my Bible, because I'm a little depressed. I'm a little, and it opens up to Psalm 73. And I'm reading this thing. And by the way, I highlighted this years ago in a season of depression, which was interesting. So in Psalm 73, the writer, he is bemoaning his life in comparison to the wicked. Why do the wicked prosper?
Who are doing fabulously.
They're killing it.
Right.
Their rental properties are just going great. They're not having any plumbing, septic, or electrical problems.
No,
it's just fantastic.
Every investment they make is soaring,
going through the roof. And he's going, my life sucks. My life is hard. My life is difficult. And I realized, then he comes to this place, and this is it, Roger. This is it. I mean, this is the pivot point. He said, yet I am always with you. You hold me by my right hand. You guide me with your counsel, and afterward you will take me into glory. Listen to this. Whom have I in heaven but you? And earth has nothing I desire beside you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is strength in my heart, and I love this, and my portion forever. I ended up teaching on the trail joy and sorrow, suffering and joy. But I realized, and I've been teaching this for a while, the last year, that the thief of joy is comparison. It's always comparison. It always steals our joy. The writer in Psalms, he's comparing his life, the difficulty of his life, to the prosperity of another person's life. And then he ends up saying, but I was really an ignorant beast. And that was really comparison. It's stealing my joy. And then he comes back, he pivots into this place of joy. He said, but I'm always with you. And you're guiding me with your right hand, and you're counseling me. This is walking with God. He's taking us by the hand. He's speaking to us. And he said, eventually I'm going to die. My flesh and my heart will fail. but you're the strength of my life and my portion forever. So there's this now and there's this then. And so what I realized on the trail, and I was convicted by it, and I had to turn a corner. And I think in turning that corner, it allowed me to grieve, because I had 2 days on the trail where I was grieving. I think it was even delayed grief from mom and dad's situation.
Okay.
Like I was on the verge of tears for 2 days.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
good. Yeah.
Bad. I mean, bad. It was just sad.
Right.
And I even told her, I said, hey, one night I was to devotion time. I'm like, I got nothing for you. Anyone else wants to share, you're welcome to, but I just don't feel like I have anything to share. And I was just like, I've been on the verge of tears all day. It's just been an interesting thing. But I started realizing something, and this is where God convicted me and it helped me turn a corner. If comparison is the thief of joy, then contentment is the secret to joy. It's the key to joy. It's this thing that Paul talked about, whether I have it going really well or really poorly. Whether materially I have everything that I need in abundance and even more,
right,
or I don't even have enough to live on. I have found the secret. And it's the most misquoted verse in the Bible. I have found the secret to contentment. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength.
Right.
Frankly, it has nothing to do with football. I'm sorry for all the people that have used it for your football team, your Little League baseball team. It's about contentment. And what I realized is I found joy again. When you choose contentment in your work, in your marriage, in your friendships, in your material wealth, when you choose contentment, you have joy, because guess what? Jesus is with you in all that. That's the joy of my life. And I thought about almost the silliness of, I'm sorry, that's not the right word. I think we miss something when we talk about our parents and getting to see their loved ones again and how happy they're going to be. I'm like, I don't think that's the thing.
I agree.
I think when they get to heaven, then the new order, it's Jesus. This great love affair is finally consummated. Oh, and this kind of side byproduct. Oh yeah, and there's some love people. There's some people that loved ones that I knew. It is. I love the way he said it. Who have I in heaven but you? Now, well, maybe his parents, maybe, but he said, and on earth there's nothing I desire. And I'm like, that's joy, that's contentment, and it helped me. I mean, even when I came in this morning, yesterday, I realized I'm just happy. I came in this morning, I was being silly with Roger, and he's like, that's the Bruce that I know. But it's because I'm choosing contentment, no matter what my life looks like.
But you're hitting it with the why, how you do that. When we talk about choose contentment, so that the contentment comes out of what I have and not what I don't have.
Yes, exactly.
Like when I'm rich, I have Jesus. When I'm killing it.
Yep.
When things are killing me,
I have Jesus.
And that's the deal. This is the thing that is the source of the joy. What the psalmist is saying, what Paul was saying, what our parents would say. I agree. I mean, I look like even the pages of the Bible, the references aren't to seeing all your loved ones and all these. It's almost like you kind of get the sense, okay, that's built in.
We understand that.
But it's about now seeing face to face the one we've loved, we've held on to, that's held on to us, the good shepherd that's carried us and fed us and taught us and come running for us time and time again when we got loose. And
yes, so that's why I want 2 songs at my funeral. Marlene knows one. I think she might forget the other ones. I want to tell you. One is I want a black choir to do the Hallelujah chorus. Okay. I mean, was when Grandpa Rice passed, they did the Hallelujah chorus. I'm like, I've wanted that ever since I was 17.
But it wasn't a black choir.
It was not a black choir, but it should be a black choir because they can kill it. Second, I want the song Soon and Very Soon, but not I'm Going to See the King. The one that was done, I think, by the Hillsongs girl, but it talks about, though I have not seen him, my heart knows him well. Jesus Christ, the Lord of heaven. It's this beautiful thing of soon I will be with the one I love, with unveiled face I'll see him. There my soul will be satisfied soon and very soon. Oh my gosh. I'm getting tingles just thinking about that.
But the word then that I gave at Dad's funeral was what carried Dad was not a future paradise. That what carried Dad was not, oh, I'm going to see all my loved ones. Like the almost 90 years of life was carried. He's the good shepherd. Dad just dearly loved. He walked, however imperfectly, but he knew he was loved by. He embraced. That was what was carrying him. It was the shepherd walking with him through the valley of the shadow of death. It was the shepherd who enabled him. Again, to our point, he's blind, so he can't see. He's got sleep apnea. He's got diabetes, and
pancreatic
and ultimately, then he, pancreatic cancer, had prostate cancer, all these. But Dad was one of the most contented, especially in the last.
Roger, he would say it over and over again. If this was what the Lord has for me right now, I'm fine with that. I'm good with that. I can't remember exactly how it was. That's exactly what he was saying. And
it wasn't a mantra. It wasn't a.
It wasn't. I need to say the right thing right now.
Exactly. It was. He knew the shepherd. He knew that his joy was in what.
In fact, it's so funny because you and I both had some interesting talks with Dad. He had more questions about what was next than he did during his life, because none of us know exactly what passing over is going to look like. And he just told me at one point, he said, I wish I knew more about what happens next. And that's not a lack of faith. It's the beauty of the wonder of the human Dad had walked with Jesus for almost 90 years. And now he's going to enter a new chapter with Jesus. And he's like, I wonder what that's going to be like. There's part of us that would like to know. I just don't know what it's going to look like. I'm like, Dad, I don't know what's going to look like. It's doing great. I do know that all the tears will be wiped away, and there's no more pain, there's no more sorrow, there's no sadness, sickness, or death, because the old order of things has passed away in Revelation 21. So yeah, this has been a beautiful season, and we've talked about it, but 7 weeks before today, I was stuck in Peru and couldn't be at Mom's funeral.
Yeah.
Because I'm taking 8 clients on the Inca Trail, and God graced me in that season. Because it's interesting, I was always closer to Mom than I was to Dad, which is funny. But there may have been some grace in me not. I don't even know. And I was able to watch the funeral the following day.
It gets me thinking. It'd be interesting had we switched places if you were holding Mom's hand as she finished her time here.
Yep. How that would feel.
Might, because yes, I agree. I think you were closer.
Definitely.
And you would work with Mom more. Anyway.
Oh, I worked with Mom for years. I mean, I'm still doing women's ministry, for heaven's sake.
Right, that's true.
Thanks, Mom.
In Mom's honor.
Well, Mary Lou told me last week.
Mom gave you the mantle of women's ministry.
She did.
That's what.
And 2 weeks ago,
we didn't realize that.
Mary Lou shared with me that because we were like, all right, who's going to take over the joyful woman? When Mom passes and Aunt Libby dies, and Mom had offered up Bruce Will, and I'm like, and Mary Lou's like, what? I don't think so. Bruce has got like a whole other ministry, but I might just. We'll just call it the Joyful Woman 2.0, and I will do my part.
Mom will be so happy.
Libby will be horrified. Mom will be happy.
That may actually take Aunt Libby out.
Say what? No,
Bruce?
No, Libby wants us to carry.
Heart.
Yeah, Libby wants us to carry the torch. She is so poetic.
I love it.
She shared a poem with us about as they take flight, they're releasing a torch
in Flanders Field.
I didn't get that part. What is Flanders Field?
Well, that's the poem. So in Flanders Field is this poem, and yes, but
I just hope it wasn't a dry season, because I could see Flanders Field going up in flames. It's a wildfire.
But we're referencing. I asked Aunt Libby to say a word to our family.
Yes.
Right before Dad's service, and she just talked about this handing off from her generation, just beautifully, that I want to hand off the torch, and it's in your hand, and I just felt, Aunt Libby, you're still not letting it go, because don't.
It's like
don't.
You can't hand off the baton unless you hand it off, Libby. Okay. No, it was so funny. I want to share with our listeners, because so the last song I played for Dad before he passed, this is great. Ozzy Osbourne. It's a collaboration between Ozzy Osbourne and Elton John.
Do you want to know how Dad actually died?
Dad did sort of make a bit of a groan there. I said, I'm going to play Ozzy Osbourne. I said, it's not a rock song, though. It's a ballad. It's an end of life ballad. And he talks about, I don't want to die an ordinary man. And it's a beautiful thing because it says, "Don't forget me," as the as the colors fade. When the lights go down, it's just an empty stage. The truth is, I don't want to die an ordinary man. And so Ozzy Osbourne, he's telling his story, which was he was this way over the top, crazy performer, did all sorts of nutty things, and bad things. So he just said the whole verse is, "I've been a bad guy." And I told Dad after I played the song, I said, "Dad, you're not dying an ordinary man." I said, "You're dying an extraordinary man." And I told Dad the things that I shared at his funeral. I said, "You've been a man of integrity, and that's hard to find in these days. A man who, because I don't define integrity as just someone who's honest. Integrity is what I present on the outside, is who I truly am on the inside." And I believe that was Dad. He had so much integrity. And I'm like, I've always thought, when I think of Dad, I've always thought he's a genuinely good man. And I realize none of us are good, and all of a sudden I get that. But Dad was a genuinely good man. The way that he loved Mom well, even though they were super different. Mom, flaming extrovert; Dad, big time academic, introvert, and yet chose to love her well, chose to love all of his kids well, passed the blessing on to us, even in his final days, asking each of us to his bedside to talk with us. And man, that's just beautiful.
But it follows out of, if you talk about a theme even for today, it follows out of, he became more and more like the shepherd. In other words, the shepherd he loved led him in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. So Dad took on, this is part of the gift, and it's part of the beauty of even what you're saying. It's not even the righteousness transformation begins now.
Yeah.
That's not, so here's the thing. Some of us are going to need far more transforming on the other side. Who knows how long that'll take? We don't know what, even like we said, time, whatever.
Yeah.
Dad had made a lot of advances because he had walked so long and well with the shepherd that he loved. It was changing him. And this is where I think even things like contentment and gratitude and joy produce a harvest of righteousness. They are the fruits of this. That is a part of righteousness, is contentment and joy and peace. Those are fruits of God's work in you. And that comes from, in the heartaches and the troubles, as you, not comparing. Joy is looking at what I do have and not what I don't. What the psalmist could look and say, how foolish was it for me to look at people who don't know God?
Exactly. That's the point. He said it's like a brute beast.
They don't even know.
They don't know the joy. They might know some wealth. They might know some prosperity, but they don't know the King. They don't know the shepherd.
Why would I ever really envy their lives? And I think that's where Dad loved his life. He loved because he walked with a shepherd, and he could take great joy in the places he had been. He had such great kids. Well, that's one of the things, one of the
great sorrows
burdens he had to carry
was Bruce in particular. Roger, joy path. Bruce, sorrow path. Parallel paths.
Parallel, right together.
Right there. Dad embraced them both. Beautiful thing. By the way, your wife said that, yay, we have audio. And we must have video because she didn't say she can't see us. Which, let's face it, a miracle has happened today. I'm going to call the Vatican and say, I've got to qualify. I don't know why we do this when we're acting like we're calling somebody. I don't even understand my own hand gestures.
No anymore. It's
or you just talk because there's an earpiece that's like in your ear. It's like, I love people that walk through Costco that talk like this. Like, I don't know, what is it? I don't even know what this. I don't know what this does. Apparently,
we are strange little people.
I love it. So I'm glad to be back after I don't know, we were 8 weeks. I don't know how long we were gone.
Well, we could add a thing since there was a podcast that people could either hear or see or actually existed.
And Roger told me today that for all of you that are looking for us on Spotify, you can't find us because the audio files that Roger is collecting are going into a locked vault somewhere in Switzerland that we do not have access to. We would upload them except we can't. So if any of you know how to get to those files, leave a note in the comment section. Hello, morons. This is how you get your audio files and upload them to
to
Spotify so that people can listen to us and not just see us.
Yes. So we've overcome, we think, today's technological difficulties. Let's see what comes up next week, Bruce, on
right here,
Technologically Challenged
on the Pastor.
Pastords.
Pastords out. Scream and shout. Oh dear. Yes,
have no doubt.
We will no longer be live. That's a terrible way to put that.